What's this, you fucking piece of shit?
Well, that's probably your screen time, and that is why you clicked on this video. But it was also mine at some point. I've always had big goals and aspirations, having lots of money and a good physique. A good idea would pop into my brain, but 5 minutes later I was there on TikTok watching videos that looked like this. My attention span was gone and my brain was fried. Unfortunately, I was still a brokey.
You're broke!
But only until I discovered this protocol that would quite literally save my life and take me from a lazy little boy to a disciplined little boy. If you stay until the end of the video, you will not only get valuable information, but also actionable steps you can start to follow today. In this video, I will explain to you in detail what only 30 days of monk mode did for me and the exact protocol I followed. Before I talk about monk mode, let me rewind 2 years and tell you how shitty my lifestyle was.
Yeah, it's rewind time.
I'm taking screen times over 10 hours a day minimum, gaming into the late depths of the night, social media addiction, porn addiction, music addiction. You name any addiction, I will bet you I had it. Each of these addictions would take something valuable away from me. First of all, social media ruined my attention span. You know it is messed up when an average TikTok session would turn into this kind of setup. Meaning watching TikTok, YouTube, Netflix and gaming at the same time. Then we have porn. Every man's weakness at some point. Porn robbed me of my drive to go and work on something and actually be productive. I have a video talking about the effects of it and the solution to porn addiction in depth. And finally, music. I feel like the negative impact of music is not talked about enough. I could literally make a whole video about it. Music would literally eliminate the chance of having any thoughts in my brain. I was left with no creativity whatsoever after listening to music. My mind would just be blank. I was basically a useless consumer, adding nothing valuable to this world. So I did what every person would do in such a miserable situation. I looked up motivational videos in the hopes of it maybe fixing my life.
So they're being there to help clear roads, rebuild.
Okay, all jokes aside, the real change began when I found out about monk mode. But what is monk mode? Monk mode is a practice where one is hyper-focused on personal development for a certain period of time. It is basically self-improvement but on steroids. During monk mode, you follow a certain protocol which is a set of rules that you cannot break. There isn't a defined formula or standard that everyone has to follow. It varies from each person and the situation they're in. So here's the protocol that I followed. 1. No social media. I deactivated my accounts and deleted the apps. 2. No porn and no fapping. 3. No music. Gym 4 times a week. 5. And finally, a strict 6 a.m. morning routine that I follow every single day, even on the weekends. However, there are these unchangeable guidelines. But as I kept going, day by day, I added small things along the way. I know a lot of people do meditating, but I replaced that with praying and remembrance of God. This is essential for me personally as a Muslim. Of course, we all have materialistic and worldly goals, but we have to remember that our time here on earth is limited and that we need to do good. So if someone was ever to pay me a big bag, but I had to do something immoral, this remembrance of God would always make me stick to my principles. And something that I did from day one, and this may sound strange, but I started sleeping on the floor in my living room. Everyone thought I had become some strange caveman, but weirdly enough, this made it so much easier for me to hold on to monk mode. I think leaving the environment that reminded me of my old habits was a game changer, and you should definitely try that. So let's talk about how I experienced my first ever month of monk mode. I feel like the first week went by fairly easy. I think that was because I felt motivated and kind of excited because I treated it as a challenge. But as the second week came by, my motivation and excitement started to fade away, and I had to rely on my discipline. This week was by far the hardest, and I had many urges to break some of my protocols. Leaving social media behind was really difficult for me because I was so conditioned to hours of entertainment every day. I really felt like I needed that dopamine. However, an interesting thought that pushed me was the fact that generally it's really the easy way out to get yourself distracted with entertainment. 99% of the people around us are like that, and that is the exact reason why they live a mediocre life. These people will try something new. As soon as they experience one setback, they pull out their phone and get themselves distracted again. It is such a coping mechanism. I think we have all been guilty of this at some point, actually. But if you truly want to live a certain lifestyle, then you have to trade in something now. And that is what I realized. Eventually, I survived the second week and the urges started to become weaker. I really began to get used to this new way of life in the third or fourth week. It really became a routine. I started to enjoy it. So the big question remains, what did 30 days of monk mode do to me? The sole purpose of monk mode was to reset my life. Because as I said before, I was occupied with so many useless activities that directly affected my productivity in a negative way. I was programmed in a certain way that, in a matter of time, it was literally self-destructive. Once I removed these distractions from my life, what was I left with? An abundance of time. But the true beauty was not in the time that I was left with. No, it was actually the ability to think clearly for once in such a long time. Like bro, think about it. Nowadays there's literally no room for thoughts anymore. You do not think when you scroll on social media. You do not think when you listen to music. You cannot think before, during, or after you consume porn. Mind you, I am only talking about thinking clearly, let alone concentrating. The ability to think clearly is actually a superpower that has been robbed from us. Creative thoughts come to you only when you achieve clarity. It is such an unbelievable feeling, as if your mind was in jail and it just got out. I want you to ask yourself this: when was the last time you sat down and truly thought about your life, your future, or even reflected on yourself? Now, I had clear thoughts. I was in a state of a tunnel vision and I was solely focused on the things in life that actually mattered. And this part is so important. When you reach this state of focus, this is exactly when you find your purpose. This is when you figure out how to reach your goals. In this stage, you get to work things out. I finally understand why so many people feel lost and have no purpose nowadays. It is because their life is full of distractions. The funny thing is as well, now that I have changed my habits and become so much more productive, I always feel like I'm running out of time. In comparison to before, when I was wasting so much hours in a day and it didn't even bother me. I could not even realize that I was in such a harmful bubble. I think the same goes for the majority of people. They don't even realize that they're destroying their own lives in real time, which is so sad. To not sketch a false image though, it did not only take me 30 days to fully get rid of all my addictions and other bad habits. I did relapse here and there at the time, but monk mode gave me a very strong foundation to build on. So if you make an effort to replace your bad habits and you relapse, that is normal. It is a process and you have to keep pushing yourself. If you've been addicted to a habit for years, you cannot expect yourself to just stop in a few weeks. If you take action now, you will manage to escape that lifestyle eventually, just how I did. And as always, love for the love, my people.